Hey guys, tonight we wander deep into Galicia's forgotten countryside, where the hills seem to fold in on themselves and the trees don't shed their leaves even in winter. The air here smells like something left too long in a closed cellar. Time loses its grip, paths reroute, and if you're unlucky or foolish enough to leave the trail, something might notice your detour. This is a story about what happens when you follow the wrong sound in the woods, and once it finds you, you probably won't escape this one. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment below. What's your local time? Where are you watching from? And what unnerves you most? Abandoned places or things that aren't quite abandoned? Now extinguish the lights, perhaps turn on some white noise to mask the sounds beyond your window, and let's descend into tonight's journey together. You were supposed to be following the red trail marker. The sign back at the fork said Sendero Rojo 3 km Scenic Ruins. But somewhere between the mossy cairn and the creek that didn't exist on the map, the trail just stopped. And you were alone, except you weren't. It started with a soft rustling, not birds, not wind, not quite language. It was too low, too wet, like someone murmuring underwater. The kind of sound you feel in your teeth more than your ears. You stepped over a stone wall barely 2 feet tall, mostly eaten by ivy. That's when you saw the orchard. The trees looked wrong, tall but bent, like their backs had been broken decades ago, not pruned, wrenched. Their branches curled inward, clutching nothing. Most were dead, bark peeled in long strips like sunburnt skin, but some bore fruit. Unripe apples pale as bone. None of the trees cast shadows. You looked up. The sun was there, low, filtered through haze, but the light never touched the orchard floor. It just stopped, as if the canopy was filtering not just brightness, but time itself. A shiver ran through your legs, not from cold, from the sensation that if you stood still long enough, the ground beneath would forget you ever arrived. And still that whisper. You kept walking, not sure why. The crooked path meandered between rows of trees like it had always been waiting for feet to return. It smelled sweet at first, almost pleasant, like fermenting cider, but there was something else under it, like mold beneath wallpaper, or a wet animal hiding under your bed. Somewhere up ahead, a wind chime clinked. You turned your head. It wasn't a wind chime, it was teeth, hanging from thread, strung from one tree to the next like festival lights. Human, animal, you couldn't say, some cracked, some gold-capped, all swaying in rhythm with the breath of the orchard. You didn't scream, but you did step back, and your foot hit something soft. It was a doll. Half-rotted cloth, empty eye sockets. Stuffing leaked from its neck like dandelion fluff. Sewn into its chest was a word, oidos, ears. Then the trees creaked, not from wind, from movement. One of them bent, not in that slow, arthritic way of old trunks, but suddenly like a man bowing at the waist, snapping halfway. Bark crunched. A limb scraped the soil. Another moved, then another. You backed up, fast now, until your shoulder hit something hard. A doorframe, freestanding. No walls, just a splintered wooden rectangle nailed into the trunk of a tree like a joke or a trap. But the moment you touched it, the whispering stopped. Gone, not faded, cut off as if someone had hit a switch. For a moment you felt clear, awake, like you'd been under anesthesia and were surfacing too quickly. The silence was loud enough to hurt. Behind you, the orchard made a sound like a man clearing his throat. And in front of you, beyond the doorframe, was a figure. He stood maybe 30 meters down the path. His clothes were wrong, too old, like something from a century ago, wool coat, linen shirt, mismatched shoes. His head tilted slightly to the side, as if listening. No eyes. His face wasn't skin, it was burlap, and it was sewn on. The mouth stretched too wide, as if smiling with regret. You blinked. He was gone, you ran, no idea which direction, no trail, no markers, just trees, thousands of them all bending inwards now. Their branches gnarled together like fingers gripping secrets. The path was gone. The sun had dipped below the ridge, and in the growing dark, you could hear the whispering again. Except now it was behind you, and louder. You didn't look back, not because you were brave, but because something in your bones told you that if you saw it, if you turned your head and gave it shape, it would follow you faster. Your lungs ached from cold, unfiltered air. Your legs burned as brambles lashed your ankles, but you kept pushing forward, deeper into the orchard that should have ended long ago. The moon had risen, but it gave no light. Just a dull reflection of the fog clinging to the orchard floor like rot. Spring had changed. Now it wasn't underwater. Now it sounded like your own voice repeated back to you in short, breathless phrases. Things you had muttered under your breath earlier, things you hadn't said out loud in years. Just a quick walk, nothing weird. I don't believe in this kind of stuff. Don't let them find out what you did. That last one wasn't yours. You never said that. You tripped. Your hand slammed into something soft, slick, almost warm. It wasn't moss. It was a face, not a person, just the face. Laid flat on the earth like a mask, peeled away in one perfect, damp piece. The eyes were still in it, and they moved. You scrambled away, crashing through a rotten fence that hadn't been there moments ago. And that's when you saw it again, the man with the burlap skin. Only now he was closer, 30 feet, standing beside a cart laden with something covered by black cloth. Behind him, lanterns hung from tree limbs, but none emitted light. Just shadows, deep pulsing ones as if they drew in the darkness and exhaled something colder. The wind picked up, but it didn't feel natural. It tasted like rust, like wet pennies. You turned. He was suddenly 10 feet away. The face, his mask, was clearer now, no stitching, just slits, and something underneath shifted. Like insects crowding under gauze, he tilted his head again. That same curious, off-angle lean, and he raised one arm, no fingers. Just burlap wrapped tightly in twine, then pointed. Behind you, you didn't want to look, but you did. There were people in the orchard, silent, unmoving. Figures between the trees. Dozens, some standing, some kneeling. All wearing clothes decades or centuries out of time, all facing you, and every one of them wore a mask of someone else's face. You took a step back and the man in burlap mirrored you exactly, a step forward, one foot dragging slightly as if mimicking your limp. A dance. You reached for your phone, dead, not low battery, just blank. The screen black as the sky above, where no stars had come out tonight. Your breath fogged in the cold, but their breath didn't. They didn't breathe. Somewhere nearby, a clock chimed. Except you hadn't seen a single building since leaving the trail. With each toll of the invisible bell, the orchard contracted. The trees creaked inward. The shadows stretched longer. The figures took one step closer. At the 12th chime, the burlap man opened his arms. His coat flared open like a curtain, and inside wasn't a body. Inside was a window, not to something, but from something. You saw through it. You saw your own house, your room, this exact moment, yourself watching this video, and behind you something just barely out of frame. A figure. You blinked, and the window vanished. The burlap man stepped forward, pressing something into the soil between you. A glass jar. Inside, floating gently in amber liquid, was a tongue, your tongue. You tried to scream, but nothing came out. And then the orchard whispered again, not in your voice, but in hers, the girl. You never saw her face. Only read her name years ago in that news clipping. The one they blamed on exposure, on a wandering episode. Except they never found her shoes or her tongue. And now, standing silently beside the burlap man, was someone wearing your face. She handed it to him like a borrowed coat, and he began to put it on. The figures between the trees bowed in unison, then turned away. One by one, they walked backward into the woods, vanishing into the fog. You were left alone, or almost alone. The orchard breathed once more, a deep, drawn-in sigh. You looked down. Your hands were wrapped in twine. Your face, it didn't feel like your own. And somewhere deeper in the forest, another hiker stepped off the trail, just like you did. As the orchard fades behind you, if it ever truly does, you feel the weight of silence press deeper than sound ever could. The whispering is gone, yet a presence clings to the edges of your thoughts like sap on skin. You walk, but your footsteps don't quite match your rhythm anymore. One foot drags ever so slightly, mimicking a man you never truly saw, yet somehow knew. The trees thin, but they never end. The sky brightens, but you see no sun. You begin to question if you left, or if the orchard simply learned to wear the world like a mask. Somewhere, a child's voice sings an old Galician lullaby, soft, tuneless, too slow. You turn and nothing is there. Just a door frame nailed into air leading to nowhere at all. You touch your face. It feels warm, too warm. As if it belongs to someone else only recently attached. Back home, your phone blinks to life. The last photo in your gallery shows a path through trees you don't remember walking and someone just visible at the edge of the frame. Burlap, tilting, you try to delete it. The screen won't respond. When you sleep, you dream of rows upon rows of crooked trees, all whispering a name you didn't give them. And sometimes, just sometimes, when you wake in the dark, your voice doesn't sound quite like your own. The orchard may not want you back, but it remembers, and it waits. Right there, just off the trail, where the crooked path begins again.